So, Rocky. Rocky is just a little guy. He's a goofy gimmick character that is just there to add humour to the seasons that he's in. But what if I were to tell you that he is secretly one of the deepest, most complicated characters in all of the OSC? I'd be lying. Yeah, everyone knows I'd be lying. But just because he is a joke character doesn't mean there's no potential for him to grow more than that. So, that's what I'm here to sell you on. The idea that Rocky could be more. And also where Rocky is at the moment, both in the show and in the minds of the fan base. If you enjoy, please feel free to like and subscribe. It show me that this was a worthwhile make. So, who is Rocky, with personal opinion removed, directly in the context of the show? Rocky is a joke character. He vomits and makes faces. Which, sounds disgusting. And if this were real life and not a cartoon, you'd probably be right. The problem, though, is most characters barely react to it. So it's definitely just there as a joke. They either barely react to it, or in fact it's actually helpful in a few instances. There is a small exception to this, though. Total Fiery Island and Teapot 2. In Total Fiery Island, and also the first few episodes of BFDI, come to think of it, Rocky is not quite the joke character that he would become. Instead, he's like a mix of Marker and Grassy, more childish, sees everyone as a friend, yada yada. The biggest exception, though, is the Teapot 2 one that I mentioned. Now, Teapot 2 set up a lot of characters for story arcs, Rocky being one of these. But because the showrunner changed directly after this episode, none of it ever went anywhere. This also affected Tree, another character in my top 5, but we ignore that. Within Teapot 2 itself, though, Rocky tries to help his team, is shut down and ignored. Deathpact takes him to help them, is then abandoned by Deathpact before being reaccepted by Winner for his team. It's a small arc that could absolutely have been expanded. I'm not being delusional, for real. But it does show that if they wanted to do something with Rocky, there's something there they could do. They can absolutely make him more sympathetic. On a side note, apparently he's the second best baker of the original 20 characters. No idea why that's a thing. I think it was referenced again in BFB, if him throwing up cake mix counts as baking. But yeah, got the second best score just behind Pin. I don't know. So, this is the point I feel like most people who know Rocky are going to wait for me to get to, and that is why most of the fandom absolutely despise him. And I think it's a bit simple, to be honest. There's two main reasons, each split into their own talking points. And the main thing is that I can see how a lot of people would find him annoying. He's a joke character there for the humour. If his humour doesn't line up with yours very well, you're just not going to find him that fun or interesting. Understandable. But I feel like people take it a bit too far. And going into the other main point, the smear campaign, they tend to blow it up into things that just haven't actually happened in the show. One of the biggest points against Rocky is that he is usually a detriment to his team and causes his team to lose. And that's just not true. In fact, the only time this happened was Teapot 6, where he threw up in the cereal and turned it into vomit cereal. Other than that, he either doesn't do much because the writers tend to ignore him, or he's actively helpful to the team. Or at least not the sole reason his team loses. I mean, lest we forget, literally the episode right after he throws up in the cereal, he has no part in his team losing. That's entirely Yellowface. Where does this come from? And there's where I said smear campaign, because quite a few of the OSC discussion YouTubers of the older days, a few years ago, well, they ended up just completely ruining the reputation of Rocky with blatant lies, like him being a detriment to his team. A blatant lie. If his humour doesn't line up with you, if you think he doesn't get enough screen time, I also think he doesn't get enough screen time, but I like him anyway, that's fine. That's normal for characters, especially joke characters. But making up lies about what the character does in order to get your fans to also dislike said character is not okay, no matter what character it is. So, I said that Rocky could be seen as a more interesting character, and I want to go into that because Teapot 2 really is a good example of where Rocky could, and in my opinion should, be taken in the future. As there's a few other moments that you could extrapolate to fit the narrative shown in Teapot 2 of Rocky wanting to help, but not being able to, because his one skill is just too specific and unique to really be applicable to most situations. And I think a really good character, or set of characters to pair him off with, could be Tennis Ball or Tree. Characters that are usually a lot more calm and, willing to help. And that way they could help Rocky, use his talents and also maybe even speak again in certain ways that would be more beneficial to his team overall. I just think a lot of people really sleep on him. It could be a really fun idea for a really not very well utilised character, especially because what Rocky was at the very start of BFDI and in Touch of Fiery Island is just grassy in modern day, let's be honest. So, yeah, Rocky's not all that serious, but he's not a bad character. He's a joke character, so people tend to write him off a lot, but if you just take the time to appreciate the little guy a bit more, and on top of that, all of the characters in BFDI, you might enjoy a character a lot more than you did the first time around. I mean, I personally didn't really enjoy Grassy a lot for a long time, but, now I really enjoy him. And this was just me, a Rocky fan, rambling on. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening.